Good morning to all listeners for Radio Maria. Name me Angelyn Paranda. Me Director of Legal Training Institute. Me by Sabanti Platete lo display session play me long law talk lo this weekend. Na one thing inside long lo studio me got narapla want to talk to joining me, so I think let me introduce him and the person.
Yes. Morning to our listeners to Radio Maria. Miat name to me I'm Sean Charles Mousing, me of Vincent Seminary. Becomes the content. Plus on side. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Last week, another lawyer man named Hesron Wangi and he come na toklo click lo customary land na registration of customary land. So I think we would have covered more topic lo manam something in customary land. So you look at customary land and ground where you one man married long one him happy me come long and we own him. So understanding me long Orlando Palace, now get a land of customary land. And no, usually land is owned by a community of people. You know, blow one man there, so like register him ground. This last something you must think into boundary blow ground stuff on them, blow one him half, start low when I finish low way. Usat you go pass or look out in this like ground. Now one more appropriate office you go registering ground suppose you got interest lo registering slow ground beli plan place beli plan. So so has run covering this last week. Lo topic lo tete by me discuss it lo constitution na the upholding the rule of law and basically all terms lo English plus I talk. So before we go to this topic, we like explaining really quick what law is. When something in law, kita lang saya master lo to law ito polsem na polsem but what is law? It's not a white man concept only, or say no concept of foreign asik isim kami plan ni plado kita sudah pakai no kan. Ini tu law plus pemipla law nam hap kona o wanam hap beli mikam lo yang bapak begini kat lo beli miet lo hap beli mikam lo peles pun. So ini katul customary laws too is that. So in that context, I think in the most simplest way we can describe in law rules that the immune community accepting or some immune kata must be law keeping peace na wada long within the society law plan. Iya tak rule we got rules. Suppose one man inside law place and make it wrong. One black is small go elder, long place for me or chief or sati go pass through this law. Give woman all by deal what them is law like making wrong. You got rule married all ceremonies from law by bride price or this plakan about all kind rules. So law in this light, law is a set of rules. That the community accepts, for example, that must be keeping peace now within law society and within an organization too. Now usually law regulating how will man by stop inside the display or must be now not making rule not line banning supposed to broken a rule. There's always a penalty banning this law rules too. So you broke him, you got penalty or aswa blown. You broke him, you got some man by making or enforcing this law rules by talking me one penalty by you paying or by putting you long you must make him so you can clear him yet law community again. So that's basically what a rule is. So law plus same thing. Suppose you come long city or one happy walk long and everywhere you go there are rules law you mean by behind long. How you may walk inside the office. Law society blomipla road traffic rules start Molga this law rules they come under one rules but they derive from what we call laws laws all acts of parliament, bersarem all lines of acts of parliament, all basically law all parliament plus I passing all parliament imi service all man and area representing me inside law parliament imi voting all go inside. So implement kisim all nipla law go. Suppose majority line inside law parliament accepting come up or representing me all get our mouse will inside the parliament so little all say yes nipla agree one thing isla no it's la law now by passing imi all get where this law by apply imi must be in we broken we got penalty so that's the most simplest way we can describing law at the moment. So set of rules law governing we apply we broken we got penalty by applying. So then what then is the constitution of what then is a constitution? You got all kind very certain constitution law this law, but most of the time when we talk about constitution we say refer long mama law long all country. Now believe me we say refer law constitution believe me say mama law. That is a law that most nations will have. And in that law, you also got all preambles or one in law, each of those one in their nations. So, you got national goals and directive principles inside law, constitution law plan. Time all big man, all been also all in that of all fathers all been designing the constitution. Now you works in thinking all get line, only putting these lines of the constitution national goals and directive principles. So every law that you may passing this law constitution blame to it because they must make sure this law all national goals and directive principles blame it must not get almost thinking laws that apply enacting only passing only plan law or government making plan law parliament making plan law. So those are our guiding principles. Basically ideals for each country or each nation. What is as a union? What do we recognize ourselves as? So by you looking supposed to open in constitution of Papua New Guinea in now we know before where all sample land as well that copy of the constitution. Now I think you go along internet and you got data, we see you long. Finding this law constitution, it should be free and you can download it. You could plus supposed to get this opportunity downloading like keeping where you get to. So you saw you wanted something and it's a law constitution really. So yes, sample laws words inside law constitution and may use them. Technically because by needing or sample lawyers will help me long understanding, but every person has a right to copy based the constitution. I mean no paper lawyers no parliamentarians or sataso have one in law blame you get a man very long public so that's in our circumstances. So all founding principles it's usually part of the constitution now, so we talk to national codes and directive principles. Most constitutions by got all rules and by establishing or ever come up in inside the constitution or main or government officers. In Papua New Guinea we call them constitutional officers. Inside the constitution too, Blumi and creating all court system Lomi Plateau. Now in terms of order of importance of laws, all main laws of Papua New Guinea, also captured in the constitution Lomi Plateau. So number one in the constitution itself, and then all laws, all parliament passing, and then all one in the what we call common law, customary law too. Constitution Plum Plateau, it looks also an MO laws when we black can behind him too. And we can behind him. So long as customary law, conflict with them rights law, conflict with them laws inside the constitution. So that's what the constitution says. So any important law, that's basically in a nutshell what the constitution is. Sampla luipla and by pla so me talk law this law side law national look sabe lo constitution we cover country lo mipla sample mipla by mipla part lo committees associations with isla tu gatol anemia constitution lo but los anemia up to lo level lo isla associations tas well same idea but the constitution mi tok lang yun isla mama lo by covering ugatalan long country lo lang so then mi sa harim isla manemia kami to isla have term upholding the rule of law. What's basically upholding the rule of law? One la big la terms that basically any minimal sem ini all kata all law all passing penis where all kata line accepting nice on niya suppose me making wrong, no one is above the law. At the end of the day, the same law must apply to everybody. King kata must look save law, so kata must porting law, so we must look at banning this law. Now make sure that what's right according to the law is done at the end of the day. That's basically what it means. So it will apply to every aspect of life. For example, in terms of we make you want la wrong to society or criminal some reaching up la criminal law one big man one big man one department or one big man same law applies to everybody. At the end of the day it must be seen or you must look in also law is fair. Okay, now the same penalty must apply on all the time, regardless of who you are or society. Now, of course, you apply the law appropriate way long. Also, I'll be more than line inside law community way. That's especially important when man's administering or legislations. Especially so upholding the rule of law basically means that we must respecting all the laws, using law the way it should be used. Suppose money breaching law, not same set of laws must apply to all the time. That's basically what it means. And you must respecting law all the time. Whatever law is stopped, we respect it. The only exception is the laws that apply must not be must not be oppressive. But we passing laws for the floor of parliament. So it must be seen to be fair, and especially all lawyers, especially it's our duty to make sure that we are the guardians of the law. Plus kisim law go court and plus argue on behalf of all. Argue basically in a way it means plus I talk on behalf of client plus representing law court, present law and molsem. So you must be any molsem, although you can interpret him molsem. And at the end of the day too, and when we say we're guardians of the law, and must use law to protecting your line too. As advocates of justice kind of sense. So that's basically what we means by upholding the rule of law. So constitution is stopped, mama law is stopped. Mama law emi come up inside law mama law we got all all guiding principles to you law where all ideals or hopes or goals for country are captured inside law this constitution plan. So all the narpla law parliament passing all must make sure we look at the national goals and directive principles all that too. So but that does not mean that if you breach national rules and directive principles by law you come after you. It's basically there to guide every person all the money like making law like because the national goals and directive principles time all CPC Constitutional Planning Committee only designing all of start or designing constitution only go all over as far as possible law country law something all the time now this thing all the time and all chief law elders law committee we representing all too. So those who cannot be which cannot be written it was expressed. So because you mean Nipla country law this time sample main laws only sample means something of capturing sampler only thing was in the time and was wish plumipla or gold plumipla not capturing inside this national goals and directive principles. So and wishes for all the time online law this time only apply drafting this constitution so that's captured one of the first few pages of constitution that's captured in there. So that's for me especially we look at some critical part of the constitution our constitution itself it's been amended so many times to capture the all needs parliament at that particular time thing needed to be done so that to accommodate changes of this kind of so while some constitutions for non-country it is hoped that it will not be as amended as often. Our constitution is one of the most amended constitution in the world actually. So that's okay. For whatever purposes or parliament or government of the day feels it needs to be amended to accommodate the needs of the society, then they amend it to suit the circumstances of this time or whatever thing they believe should be done at the time. So yeah, I think in a nutshell this basically what we can talk about constitution and fundamental upholding the rule of law. Main thing I don't need law constitution now. I mean establishing country and need law constitution. So the important thing about constitution law Papua New Guinea, I think we plan to talk long last year. Law leading up law long independence law Papua 50th anniversary our constitution was passed 1 month earlier before our independence. It needed to be passing on the 15th of August and then just this constitution and passing them establishing this nation them talk against this country so and so. And then on the 16th of September 1975 Mipla celebrating independence from Mipla. So that had to take place before the independence official handover independence come from Mipla. So it could not have been done the same day in that particular year. So historically that's what happened. So the anniversary constitution is the 15th of August 1975. It's when it was established, Plantio Land been admiring constitution because it's one of the comprehensive. Basically, Karama plant is something in but law protection, law rights, man married to law country too in terms of fundamental rights, law man married to start inside of this constitution too. So that's critical. In terms of basic rights, fundamental rights law, all the man marry law, country law, it's guaranteed. Service law constitution. So those are the important things with regards to constitution law. this topic of law. So when we go back, we can rule of law. So we got Mama law, Blue Constitution law, establishing government departments or organizations, establishing or basically establish minimum and come up in inside this law main constitution, it's law offices and act of parliament, it's law constitution, you come up in this law office. So kind of constitutional offices, so we got them on top one and sample I can think off the top of my head and what is it? Ombudsman Commission and one plan, Public Prosecutor's Office, Public Solicitor's Office, just to name a few, the more constitutional offices. Okay, the constitutional offices and all departments or government offices where constitution it come up in because law is stuck inside the constitution, it of this law office and must come up also. So you have a plan you establish basically this law you come up with this law particular office. So any you look inside the constitution, you look in any kind of office, so some public solicitor, ombudsman, this law kind of also you judiciary too, courthouses, we serve now also especially constitutionally establishing them, those are constitutional offices. So every other departments people are creating by acts or to parliament by creating through NEC some laws that we by establishing outside of the constitution. Then you have inside the constitution, another important something in system of government what we plan. I think that Esron must cover in the click on 3 arms of government what we plan. We have the executive, we have the legislature, and then we plan up on judiciary. So I'm covering this topic is executive and online by implementing. One plus start with the legislature. Legislature and parliament government. They make the laws. Legislation is law. So when we talk about legislature and the group of people that create the laws of this country, this group of people by creating laws which the country will run and very unique and working all the time of election, parliamentarians will not time of money presenting like presenting the new law, like government by passing on the new law, also kissing what we call or by drafting or kissing draft law, law parliament, also top bill. You plus one and flexing this law parliament bill or this law new bill or this law and something, and basically in draft law, you're mixing the law parliament law. All members from club by debate long or by argue plan and good for this law legislation, law flow of parliament. So, will work long members blaming law parliament and this law. They form the legislature, the parliament, the opposition and the government. At the end of the day, they are the ones who vote for and against what's good for this country and all laws all by passing law flow of parliament. Not another man outside of parliament or enough law passing law and this law. Individuals that's when we vote more go inside law parliament. So once we vote they become members of parliament and they should be able to argue on our behalf for people who sat there representing on whether this law people are blaming or not. So once only talk and good and now this law bill now it's passed. Excuse. And passed now and by come up law blaming so if I apply long you will get or whatever this law you talk and by apply long or whoever. So the legislature is the parliament, the executive, and all government departments now. Okay. So government is making all parliament are making all laws of government departments. The plan must implement them. So there'll be respective government departments all by they'll be responsible for implementing on laws where parliament is creating. So for example, Office of the Public Prosecutor. You got the laws, the criminal code says criminal code and kolkata wrong kolkata acts where against in society try plus threat na society to nogat no good or some willful murder steal or dislocking or of theft of large amounts of money and the office that will prosecute him or salan maximum court one in the office of the public prosecutor suppose some will start law sometimes or police too so RPNGC office of the public prosecutor and more responsible now for implementing these laws where Samuel was some brief and about to by mass prosecuting or one man who got wrong taking the court na by suppose court pan memo guilty by the cell woman now is local number so to the department by implementing RPNGC police and the start and mall and then office of the public prosecutor and Narapla long one prosecuting more of course time all pan more and CS now is the operating services now time only one type of you can tell now in terms of the executive so the implementers of the laws that all parliamentarians and all MPs comply passing all making and then the third arm of government is the judiciary covering all judges from the plan all judges magistrates from the plan law country from the plan so judges magistrate even and people or village court magistrates so any man you making any kind of work within the judicial space or judicial work like you delivering making decision whether man is wrong or right or something then start with this last place but the class right now judges from the national court national and supreme court so they are the judicial arm of government they are totally independent from any they'll run independently with maximum budget lo how only must function too so when it comes to the judiciary or land by implementing them for the judges we have especially the delivery of justice well we have the law and all those people will start law space or work within law area where by helping all judges from the plateau sometimes by looking at the names I overlap legally or executive piece and making this law work too so for example LTA is one such institution or lawyers too judges magistrates na or lawyers too people are playing part people are helping all judges law court law every person at the end of the day whether you are not guilty or you're not you're not making wrong until you go to I belong court na court yet you yes you're making this law wrong so all the time you making wrong time you charge you one man or you namamas law one man you go you kiss him go court then court assault especially on criminal cases court assault can talk also whether I'm guilty or not guilty so you got that right what we call what law English term is the right to be heard the only space or only place people can go look in this law opportunity man baharing mipla or crime mipla or worry mipla and court now so that's the and that role is played by the all judges all magistrates role mipla all lawyers and all mipla kisim worry when your clients mipla and then mipla by presenting on I block court and then when court by making decisions so it's also responsibility of mipla lawyers that mipla will representing all clients will make sure that mipla making good work from mipla too mipla mipla kisim story long good mipla must understand the good research him right law long apply or helping all clients from mipla too so mipla go to court and court too and by depend on mipla lawyers helping all give more right information and court and up having one side as well and court by my scaling story blow to blow parties one time before making decision long him. So that's the responsibility of the lawyers too. So implementers and all now departments now I'd say I think in a way to SM LTI Legal Training Institute before long reply come up independent just less than come up with homegrown judiciary from it judges from time. LTI was established before independence law this law purpose to training on local lawyers from plan inside law Papua New Guinea so they can eventually come up with judges law bench from the plan. So that's the role that LTI plays in this country. Training more future lawyers so they come up with new and hopefully now we serve some of judges, not magistrates, no country. Some of triple arms of government, so all triple teams are playing distinct roles, but also check and balance. So law and the talk almost separate and independent. Now one cannot come to one and talking one role and one playing. The only I think legislative the only arm of government that can make findings in terms of certain making money and what are so judiciary. So whichever arm they got wrong or I feel in heaven, people are born about judiciary, but I guess so some charges and finding out wrong stuff from an and by giving decision wrong. So yeah. So law side law all laws now. Also we talk finish them all line passing laws or the thing come up in law. Also, I want to make sure that all laws only passing in and breaching or in and broken one plan along existing all legislations, or laws of what we call provisions. Or laws of provisions. We start inside finish law constitution. Once and we breach him, or line of law on top one and started law. Hopefully, I'm started law drafting stage. Only can survey law this plan and make sure that breach one part law constitution law plan. But you got all situations where some time online no look good in terms of only rush law passing more laws no behind time no time or like implementing more laws or like implementing more laws or like using more this laws now so realize so one law two law this law new law and me go against him constitution law law or say mama law in those sort of situations diplomat by two something that come up whether all by amending this law applying inside this law new law make sure totally breaching or at least for changing one law or two law applying that's all by all right again or law provision by all right or no God suppose them totally against the constitution and by one law recommending or by repealing this law provision law housing so when you hear the word repeal it means remove part more of this law piece of legislation this law provision so you can either repealing provision or some time also repealing whole this law legislation or act of parliament too. Or you can just amending one law or two law lines or some law provisions inside of this law so to make sure that go against the mama law of the country. I think some little thinking we can do in now. And let's see for line long studios I've got some question. You can try to ask some questions. So yeah, if you thinking some thinking or some asking if you can you got this opportunity long discussing this one. Now me like talk now. So in terms of you got the laws, the constitution now is the laws inside the parliament, and then there are unwritten laws you got to, or some more customary laws when you got to. Constitution it looks away law customary law, which that you must understand. Any law that applies for society being law, the one community become member of the and constitution it looks away law this law. So our customary laws are also important. Now you can actually use in customary law. Only thing is, also we talk about another plan laws on passing the parliament. Yeah. It's not customary law, you know, can breach you any part law, rights law, one plan, another plan, or you can breach you all, all breaching right one plan, another plan, that's in the constitution. And now back on the term it lawyers are talking, the term is called the parliament, it means against the constitution, so and it's like suppose the customary law customary and we oppressive, and now suppose you like you see this law or the law and then more like that you breach you constitution like man and the rights are protected by the constitution. Also you may look savage by the time customary law you may say giving people look savage too, so it really depends on societies now. How you apply customary law, how elders when you plan law, elders to applying how you say using customary law. I think there's a law look yet online or stuff law. I think law plays through and it depends. This line stuff some more town, some line stuff town and more customary, it's a bit modified now. So by looking, we look some plan modified in terms of a shooting purpose long line inside the city or inside the town. So those are things that happen because the circumstances blow. Or man or marriage is like number, but sometimes it can be oppressive in a sense that you're making the shooting convenience way, but stuff then through for custom law, so something we know that a lot of things to law this law. So and that's suppose you block out some class.
Yes, thank you to law. Thank you to Maslow. It's the school law side law. So you never take me stuff law. I need law you about you never suppose you gain him long, so you may will be punished if we are not following what is being passed in the parliament. So thank you to and giving also school law even me and the listeners out there. You talk us law and making way you got to pass that is with each other in our society. Asking Pasol, recently we having these evictions which are being happening here mostly. Made me looking also, how and so always a bit harsh, inhuman in some sense. People remain being evicted from there because they are settling not on their own land. It's not immediately school laws aside. I know it's a
very sensitive topic at the moment.
Sorry.
I'll do my best without but it's usually if anything like this in stuff law. Quotas like I'll complacise strategically long one, but what I can say is in terms of look around look around so the paramount right stays with the owner Buddhist like around. So unfortunately, we sorry long on sister questioning them asking I can't speak for something making no sense. So I don't know if it could have been done in a better way and at the end of the day by the only other thing too I think we'll get the land is what we call whether it's a bit, like I said, it's a bit sensitive topic for me to discuss at this time, but I don't know how to really, that opinion and it's true, you sort of but when I talk about the rule of law is that the question I think that we can all ask is whether and if it comes to it, is whether the right procedures we use this exercise for this plan. And the ultimate, unfortunately or unfortunately, the ultimate right lies with the owner of the ground itself. And that's the unfortunate. Like for example, and you need to talk long side long or not in the large scale, but let me give an example on a small scale or maybe a scenario. One money owning one property. Na kami talk on any owning sila property na title on sila particular property, and then we go na using sila property lohan long or sa all caretakers long sa na imla comeback no na pagtok imla comeback lo kirang lang like using. So the question is sila I'm going to try to this around, and it's going to create an issue for that person because suppose caretaker is less losing ground by creating issue now the landowner or title owner of this particular property. The other thing is when we talk on and it comes back to, and I don't want to be suggestive also we talk some stuff and what please not let me talk something online by something about the routine. Usually supposed to go to court and court and how long we start with like how much by the election to like suppose like in terms of when we talk on building house or it's not kind about but especially when it comes to owners of the property too, it also depends. Suppose man start working around how soon give notice when you move. Sometimes you learn sit down we go no, and they will have some sort of right or say no slag ground because you know they show this like actual when they want to thinking really long removing all in the first place. So that's there. But with regards to the loss of property now this law line suppose like you sample they have all the right to seek the appropriate assistance from all lawyers too, but thinking long because some people will sit down long time whether looks like no one in our stuff time when properties going around so what are they entitled to? Are they entitled to anything at all? And that's with relation to property. But you can talk all about after or proximity, that's I don't that's a huge single property all the time. And in terms of resettlement from all of the less so kind of so I guess first is in terms of managing it, you need to look on the big money to this one thing first. I think is a concerned fellow this citizen was last year. So you bring them from this place, you now actually use plenty of settlement there. Two plus three plus generation of land stuff for this land. You can plant the soil to what's happening. Plant the soil to what's happening to us. We can only yes, but we can only imagine one week from pusat money which like around the victim or it's like around is owned by the state. So and that's hopefully we answer the question, but that's as much as I can say this time.
That will make it clear. Sometimes we start our levels on got that idea of what's happening. Give them some. Right.
Actually, as I mean, people are sorry, looking will be several mama or bikini. The law is, and I have to be very frank, honest. Just for protecting all owners look around, especially with state land. If you got title look around, law for protecting this land. So I'm like kissing around long and back, long making we can something, and got every right law kissing back this flag here around. As to how we'll plan long in terms of affecting more land, that's something for whoever will tasking long, making Islam work now. So that's something online will making Islam work alone, thinking Islam it's still happening in the city. So I think the general thinking online where evictions come up and only talk law on to minimize criminal activities was also. That's one reason, that there could be other reasons. So that's something like top of things.
Apa something interesting yang itu tayo ko di school sa CPC. Which collectives even that place for this it's not strictly can at the beginning kan dia sama passion dulu sama kasi ting dulu lain bilas sebagai dan came out very interesting sampah lah memantai lah lain antara tasuk came but the rest police staff tambah also like remotely now DHS all this giving ting come up and stuff but sekarang saya mencari nice bathroom really nice how they came up with that go straight to across the yes really nice do straight
Thank you. I think I can say me too last year because anniversary was the 50th anniversary of country. A lot of planting can man go back na visiting history of you country plan constitution plan especially too. But to come slow, even can think to leaders from love and God starting one country from plan and stuff all kinds of things. I think leading me come up independent from Savi long unit or some nation or maybe nation or running own country plan. And remove ourselves governments from the Australian government at the time. So we got to learn some more matters and stuff. Also the initial thing as side from start I think we can do so the first House of Parliament, we used to have a House of Parliament before we got House of Assembly, sorry. Before we got the National Parliament, so House of Assembly and Tambri Town, we got on the building Crown Residence. Outside we beside the Lloyd Tribal building. We come on top of Crown Plaza and you come to right hand side, it's up there. So our representative in the House of Assembly was my person. So and this was in the early 70s. So I'm multi things that were this time. starting till now, or they express their interest. No side of the class. They need to just basic making, breaking down country by come up and independent. So we're creating this like basically see. And then the person only get a country. So long something long online. So you all marking online, look making all research. I think last year me there's more than 10 people altogether, but we only hear about 4 or 5 people. Elders locals, some long big man married long, some locals to be involved too. So some long some have all communities or so long as they were represented by all big man married all elders or chief place, only making most line, but you think long. So as far as possible, so something long will be like money something will start inside. And some people will mean something and also custom long plan as so that's how why our constitution is also unique. So some tribe look savvy long custom and our nation based long plan. Even before you may declare in PNG, so in the constitution itself as a Christian nation, our own national goals and directive principles already stated that we must apply God-fearing nation. I'm saying is a Christian nation. So kissing thinking all that line or start drafting constitution law plan. Make sure that thinking all get line to must start inside law constitution law plan. So where legislation only developing at the time or capturing the constitution is la national goals and directive principles and start front with the constitution. Basically I'm making look savvy all the time line can behind was acknowledging now reminding me play or sometimes play come up with new plan was new plan as all the time include national goals and directive principles from the plan. So every legislation we play passing must be in our designed in a way that it goes to looks at which law guiding principles from the council. One of the interesting things online or drafting of this law constitution law with Father Momis now Mr. Momis Momis Satya Kilagi Emol father at the time. So our constitution, plenty of principles for constitution is in canon law. So by looking at plenty, even though it's got our own taste, flavor, Papua New Guinean ways and laws for plenty now, especially the basic rights law, all the citizens of this country, it's basically canon law is captured in our constitution. So very comprehensive constitution law. So so the initial date, to be honest, that only been like presenting this draft constitution law on the floor of parliament, but first was actually in 1974. 75, 1974, but for April 1974, but for some reason, I don't know, maybe the drafting or one or something, they could not meet the April date in 1974, so they deferring now or the following year, 1975. So they finalizing and fine-tuning now, and then by 15th August now, passing this constitution. It's a beautiful history book, and especially side law. National goals and directive principles. I think more people who are more like electing parliament or all the extra parliament almost at least looks at this now. All members from the plateau when they are arguing on the floor of parliament and look at this it's for the good of everybody. Because once you pass in law, you go back and arousing or repealing, then you look more same law. And you go against the constitution, another plan. And then on la longa process too. from policy, you blow up one can think you blow it like him. Usually you pass a law if the need exists. You got need law, you pass in law, curing this situation by needing one like a law or rule or government.
Okay.
So that's when laws are developed. If there is a need, the circumstances calls for the need for that law to be created. Yeah. So yes, me like in this law, make look out for something, and then you go to a policy drafting, policy drafting and consultations. Usually must come up with this like when you're drafting a policy, but from the policy, not a guiding line, what they really want to be captured. So the policy by guide law, constitutional law, and national rules and directive principles. It's sort of like that. So the policy is there, and then from the policy now, all drafters now by looking, this languages law line starting to the policy. So land by goal by consulting with all stakeholders now by creating policy, and then all lawyers now by come inside now, all drafters, legislation drafters so by come inside now by designing law now according to the standard way of law plus I drafting to the first legislative first legislative running the office. They are specifically created laws, the format of law, the wording of the law, also drafting of laws. Are you satisfied with the member right now? Then on by the floor of parliament. Who's the minister responsible for presenting the floor of parliament? So I go to this process. Not two is la. Sometimes we have another office called our state solicitor's office too. Although by looking through, double checking whether any of those legislations are only no breaching constitutions to so that's at the drafting stage. No, whether this law looks when look by look must come up with this law. So once that's done, you need making draft number. It's then called a bill that's going to be presented on the floor of parliament. It has to go through what we call 3 readings. And basically readings the minister responsible by presenting or by debating. By debating with the legislator, by scrutinizing what the provision of what they meaning or not. So first reading. And then about going to second reading, just the next round and go back. So one more line law parliament talk, all the talk laws anything decision, we're gonna draft again for the next reading. Some time all parliamentarians on our mass by this one we can draft otherwise number 3 reading now, all mass or majority parliamentarians all MPs will go right now. All approving. Or now by passing now come up with the legislation. So that's what we mean by the 3 readings. And really all laws should be debated. The thing we're looking at them really need this power. And laws when we're drafting, most of the time the minister is responsible. Although it's a one portfolio minister. If it lies under the portfolio, they bring it to the parliament for the parliament to debate on before it's passed. And then we also have the private members bill, saying interest problem, not like a single law of parliament. So it's like kind of something. But I know it's a lot, but but I thought I'm expressing this processes or learned by M7. So in terms of consultation I think thinking dollar MB plus something. MB plus something. So last time I talked this one and most of you as a voter we are trying to talk in member of parliament we are expressing thinking to a member of parliament what you think about this particular piece of legislation. So depend on you in a relationship with the member of parliament or member of parliament sa spending time until long electorate with you not something but So thank you. Me and Master Lokambien Road this last session. I suppose you got for having me here this morning. This last session long law talk. Suppose you plug some question, law topic, law tete. I think we plug can ring you come law studio na we plug can answer him on next week and blog law getting topic law me plug. But with that, thank you to law you plug isla around long radio Maria na law talk na mi wish you all get good Saturday na good weekend. Thank you to